We are live, Your Worship.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. I'd like to call the regular council meeting of June 11th, 2024 to order for the adoption of the agenda. Someone want to make that motion for me? Councillor Cherry, Councillor Devlin. All in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 28th. Councillor Devlin, seconded by Councillor Roussel. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, I'll move on to announcements from the mayor. Got a few announcements today. I want to welcome our new bylaw officer, John Moore, to the city of Revelstoke. Unfortunately, John's not in the gallery today, but I want to say welcome to him. He's just on days off. There's been some changes with scheduling, so the next day that we have a meeting and he's in, Mr. Gipp will bring him in and we'll introduce him to everyone. This past week, we saw Bike to Work Week, and I'm told that was a successful week, and many riders and many kilometers put on bikes. Also, this past weekend, I had the opportunity to join with the Revelstoke Cycling Association, and I and First Nations opened a new trail for them, and nice to see that. And also this week, we have the Canoe Journey event starting on Thursday and a dinner on Thursday. So I just want people to be aware of those things going on in our community. Moving on to 9A, bylaws, water regulations amendment bylaw. So Miss Lindsay, do you have anything that you would like to do a brief overview of before we start?
Yes.
Mr. Black smiling from ear to ear because he knows I think I may put you on notice here that we're going to do something.
At council's request, it's Francesca's last name was Williams, and I pushed out some communication through social media, through the website, through a media release. We've received a few emails in response to what was proposed. I would say largely they were clearly neither in favor nor against, but more provided some feedback and some questions, some of which we've used to increase the supporting information we'll provide on the website around the proposed restrictions. One was very much in favor and another one was against, though I will note it was against water restrictions existing and proposed. As a result, I don't have any proposed amendments to what was presented to you a couple of weeks ago. I guess any questions on that?
Okay, so I will actually get this amendment bylaw on the table and then we can ask questions or discuss. So I want to put that on the table for me, please. Councillor Devlin.
1 second, sorry. I move that water regulations amendment bylaw number 2384 be read a third time.
Seconder for the motion, Councillor Roussel. Any discussion on the motion or any questions for Ms. Lindsay? So seeing that the regulations just give us a little bit more meat into our bylaw as far as what we can do as far as enforcement goes, but also scheduling. We have that extra day to refill our reservoir. Thank you for that. And other than that, really prudent things in my mind as we move forward. Any comments, questions from council? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Moving on to zoning amendment bylaw 2385, housing agreements. So this is cash in lieu of. Ms. Hartling, do you have a brief overview that you would like to discuss before we move forward?
Thank you, Your Worship. Council and committee of the whole have seen this a few times outlined in the report of discussing the option of cash in lieu and looking at density bonusing. So when a property is looking at increasing the density, currently we have it set up as a requirement of say 50% as affordable housing units, and that's taken as part of that housing agreement that council has seen. And we've outlined some of the developments that have gone with the housing agreement option. None of them are in place right now, and there has been past discussions of keeping up our affordable housing reserve and providing a cash in lieu option as well when looking to increase density. So the report to council today is following council's direction to form it in bylaw. And staff have had legal review with implementing into bylaw and are recommending first to adoption to amend the bylaw to allow for the cash in lieu option. It would be $37,000 per unit, as it would be affected by the housing agreement previously. So either could go through a housing agreement or provide cash in lieu option to the housing reserve.
So in reading through the report, if we look at the approximate housing that could be built and the in lieu of, so 20 units, 21 units times 37,000, we're looking at 777,000 that would go into our housing if these people opted to go into that that mode of in lieu of. So that's a good benefit. And this amendment bylaw kind of puts council in the driver's seat as far as making sure that we have housing in our community in regards to this. So I appreciate that. So council, does someone want to put the first motion on the table for me and we can discuss it further? Councilor Cherry.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2385 be read a first time.
Seconder for the motion, Councilor Devlin. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Orlando.
Yeah, Your Worship, just in relation to changes at the provincial level on the same topic matter of cash in lieu, that kind of stuff. My question is related to staff, if possible, to just provide a bit of background on what's happening at the provincial level and how our changes here connect or will connect with provincial level changes.
Good. Ms. Hartling, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, through your worship, Councilor. Just for clarification, are you discussing Bill 44 with density allowances specifically, or?
My understanding is through the chair that the province has sort of projected or indicated that they're going to be looking at these policies basically due to them having questionable effectiveness and looking at them in the future. So just as we're in the middle of a zoning bylaw change and lots of changes happening right now, I'm just sort of trying to look ahead to what will happen in the future with any other changes coming down. 44, I believe, was just completed last meeting. So just other provincial level changes and how these are going to sync up or connect in the future.
Yeah, Your Worship, there are other provincial changes, just looking at tenure rental zoning, or there's other parameters coming out. We are in the midst of changing our zoning bylaw and doing a zoning bylaw project as the province has been coming out with these changes. We don't have all of the communication from the province on when we receive the guides for how you implement the new regulations into the bylaw. Like we've been able to do Bill 44, the short-term rental changes. We have to do our housing action plan soon, and there's parameters where we have to meet deadlines, but not all of the guiding policies have come from the province to know exactly how we are going to be implementing those. Currently, right now, with this parameter of cash in lieu, this is something we can do currently. I don't see having to change this provision because the province is trying to have more allowances to provide for more increased housing and affordable housing. So the cash in lieu option, I don't see being taken away necessarily, but there might be more tools and provisions being able to put into the bylaw. So if this is adopted today, it would give all the developers that currently have housing agreements to come to council. They will have to come to council to discharge the housing agreement and bylaw in favor of going to the cash in lieu. And if they pay the cash in lieu, then that goes into the affordable housing reserve for projects that meet our policies. And that would be, that would be legal. That wouldn't be something that would be taken back. If there are any other parameters that the province has out for cash in lieu options or different tools for density bonusing, it's something that we might have to amend our bylaws at that time, but there would be notification and clear parameters around it before we come to council changing any of those bylaws.
Thank you.
Finishes your question, Council?
Your worship, yes, it does. Thank you.
Any other comments on the motion on the table? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Item number 2, from Council Chair.
I move that zoning bylaw number 2385 be read a second and third time.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Devlin. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And item number 3.
I'll finish it off, Your Worship. I move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2385 be adopted.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Devlin again. Any discussion on adoption? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hartley. Appreciate that. Mr. Gipp, you work on that. Moving on to staff reports, the annual report. Someone put that motion on the table for me.
If you want.
Councillor Lucelle.
Sure. I move that the 2023 annual report be made available for public inspection and be considered by council at the June 25th, 2024 regular council meeting beginning at 3 p.m. in council chambers.
Seconder for the motion, Councillor Cherry. Any discussion on this motion, or Ms. Floyd, do you have any comments?
I do not have any comments, Mayor Sauls, other than this is the first major project that our new communications coordinator has presented, and I think she's done a fantastic job at making it easy to read and a little less dry than perhaps it is.
I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Williams, thank you for that, making it less dry. Appreciate that. And council, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11B, license of occupation. And Mr. Black, do you have any overview that you would like to state before we go ahead and put this on the table?
Your worship and to council, this effort has been put together in order to minimize risk to the city and to Downey Timber, as all the roads through the industrial site are still public. And so all of Google, being all of the GIS and travel software packages all say you can go through the Downey Timber to get to Centennial Park from Townley. However, that is a very risky proposition for Downey and the city, and as such, we've entered into a potential agreement with council's concurrence in order to change that use from public use to use by Downey for a period of time that they are occupying this land. Our options were to vacate the roadways. However, then we would have a whole bunch of parcels without public access, which doesn't work either. And this way, should Downey take or move on from that location, then we would still have lots, we would still have roads that would no longer fall under the license of occupation plan. And without that, all of the roads would then revert to public use again. Simple way, cost effective, don't have to survey. And Downey is committed to work with us on installing water meters for all of their facilities in exchange for this opportunity.
Great, thank you for that. And then one question I have. So we have people who are walking through their yard now. I'm seeing families go through with baby buggies and bicycles and that sort of thing. There's still access down the old railway right of way to get to the green belt, is there not?
There is, it is not finished.
Right.
And so that right of way exists, but it's not a dedicated trail at this time. And when we do get to that, we'll obviously be looking for a nice grant to extend from the Townley roundabout to the green belt along that old right of way.
Okay, thank you for All right, council, does someone want to put this motion on the table for me and then we can discuss further if you like. Councilor Dolan.
Move that the chief administrative officer be authorized to execute a license of occupation for Downey Timber Limited to prohibit public access to the leased property via Mill Street and Victoria Road.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councilor Lucille. Further discussion on the motion. Councilor Staples.
Just a question for clarity's sake. Is there going to be anything that prohibits emergency vehicles from accessing Centennial Park from this right away? We've seen it in other parts of the community where people have taken the liberty of putting up fences and blocking roads from being a thorough.
Through your worship to Councilor Stapenhurst, we did run this by both our CMP, ambulance and fire. If Downey does choose to put a gate at the end of Centennial Park to access Downey that way, the fire department would have an access code or key to make sure that they can utilize that as the most efficient way to source a fire there.
Okay. Any other questions, Councilor Chair, then Councilor Lucille?
Do you want to go first? Yeah, go for it. Thanks, Mayorship? Through the chair to Director Black, just questions about the financial implications outside of what's written in here. Will the city still be maintaining the road even though it would be close to the public? Close to the public, but have a occupational agreement?
We currently do not go in there at all. And so there will be no operational change.
That's all my question.
Okay, Councilor Lucille.
Thank you, Marcels. For clarification, this is just Mill Street, up to essentially the three-way between Vernon, Victoria and Mill Street, which would affect public transportation up Vernon Ave from the Greenbelt to Victoria.
It is shown as page 108 of your report. It does show that it is Vernon.
Basically where our public works yard ends in the school district, right in behind there, that's the Mill Street that.
Yeah, it's just that one road, but it wouldn't affect down Vernon.
No.
Okay.
I believe I'm correct in stating that somewhat unequivocally.
Filled with confidence.
And so, oh, that's gone. I don't believe that there's any impact to any of our public roads after this is done, except for anything that's inside the boundary of Downey.
Okay.
Okay.
So that part of Vernon Avenue, that's from Mill Street down, if they still call it Vernon Avenue, that goes down to the end
Street.
to where RCEC is.
Yeah,
That's all gonna be closed off.
that's all gonna be closed as well.
But
Yeah, my understanding was that it was just Mill Street, and I understand not having public access that way. But they do have the sidewalk marked off down Vernon from that kind of three-way Y intersection down to Downey Street, where like the pump station is, or the lift station is. So that's all gonna be closed to the public.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I just see that being a bit of an issue, because I know there are people that use that access point to get from the Greenbelt up through the arena, and since we don't have access up kind of in between RCEC and Downey Streets, that people are still going to use that.
and that's been the issue. That's been the problem where the forklifts are backing up and all of a sudden they come to a stop because there's someone with a child on the road, and those people are going like, why are you here with the loader?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just that the risk is rather large by not prohibiting access to the yard. Probably should have been done at the time when the leases were created for Downey. However, we have a chance to fix that.
Any other comments, questions, Councilor Lennon?
Yeah, Your Worship, just for clarity, the resolution reads Mill Street and Victoria Road. The agreement contains more detail and talks about Vernon Avenue. Vernon Road or Avenue.
Yeah.
So for clarity, and I realize that this has been the topic of discussion, this is anything accessed through Mill and Victoria Road, including through Vernon Road as well. So So if you're going down from the rink and want to go straight towards the bridge on the Greenbelt, you cannot go down that road anymore as a member of the public.
Correct.
That's correct, okay. And your worship, if I may, just by way of comment, I want to echo Councillor Lucio's comments. I did tour the site with members of the Economic Development Commission about 6 weeks or so ago, and Mr. Woodman did show us around and express concerns about the issues and talked about Downey's efforts and ongoing discussions with staff about closing it. And he also discussed, as is contained in the report, two different issues. Number one is people using Google Maps or whatever their navigator are, and suddenly they're in the middle of what is identifiable as a industrial site with loaders running around and backing up all over the place. The second, though, is long-term residents who are aware that it is a public right-of-way through there, who walk their dogs there, who get access to the green belt there, who go and recreate. There wasn't as much concern expressed about them just because they know what's going on and they know the site and they know the risks associated. I do want to, however, get back to the concept as is laid out in the transportation plan, and I believe in parks plan as well, is the trail from the south side roundabout through the old Arrowhead spur line, past Downey down to the green belt there. Downey also has some lease land that's a bit sort of extending over onto that former right of way. In the past, BC Hydro has been interested in participating in part with that, and there has been discussion and planning. And my feeling is that ideal timing would be to provide an alternative for residents who live downtown, near the high school, near the rinks, so that they can have access and we can all have access. So in terms of asking a question on sort of a different topic, but related to this, in terms of our planning processes, what is our timeline on looking at that, completing that project, or at least completing a phase of that project to allow that alternative access towards the green belt for residents?
It's programmed in the Parks Master Plan and the Transportation Master Plan. From a budgeting perspective, it hasn't risen to the top yet.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is in those plans, which means we will get to it as quickly as we can and as the budget allows. Council, of course, has the ability to prioritize projects for us in order to move things forward quicker. And this would be a project that I would feel would be a great benefit to the community as an off-road path, much like our existing greenbelt, and certainly a big benefit to the community in a long-term perspective. However, as stated, we don't have the money set aside nor a project budget set for that at this time. And so in order to do a grant, we do need to get some design work out of the way, and that is something that we can do council's direction to prioritize.
Thank you.
Councillor Stickners.
I'm going to refrain from commentary on later.
Sir, Worship, if I can, I'm just looking for some clarification. I know I've already spoken once, but I feel like it wasn't all on the map. If I can, through the chair, so Mill Street, what's labeled as Vernon Avenue, including Downing Street up to the mobile home park? And does that also include 12th Street? And if I'm on a map, so it comes up as Columbia Avenue.
So
I'm on Google Earth, and it shows numerous streets going through there that weren't outlined in the report that there are right of ways through.
correct. However, these are the these are the ones that touch the outskirts. And if we can close these roads through this action of a license of occupation, we will then notify Google and Bing through their general comment section to remove this, because and that should remove that from the computer or your phone's accessing of.
So that's a couple streets that would still be on Google, wouldn't connect anything. Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate the.
For clarity's sake, so we want to close Mill Street, we want to close this section of Vernon Street because this is where the yard is.
Yeah.
People could still access 12th Street down to Downey So basically you're kind of having to do a big loop.
Yeah.
But
And 12th Street is not very complete in there, I don't believe either, so.
thank you.
Just make sure you don't.
All right, any other comments before I call a question? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Vote Council Lucia is opposed, balance of council is in favor, this motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to item 11C, liquor license application. So with this, do you want to give us a brief overview, Mr. Gipp, Ms. Hartling, or Mr. Nello?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have our buddy tech here, if she is here to answer any questions, but I will pass this one over to Ms. Hartling.
Thank you, yeah. We do have Ms. Milliken, she's our planning technician, and who's written this report for council today. So we have myself and Ms. Milliken that are here to answer any questions that council may have. Just a general overview of the report and what's in front of council. It's a liquor primary application, so a permit application from the Revelstoke Grizzlies Hockey Society. So council, I believe it was a meeting in 2022, endorsed the Grizzlies to apply for a permanent liquor license application through the province. It did take a while getting the occupant load stamped by an architect, so that is a bit of a delay here, but you can see the application coming in front of you with an occupant load calculation of, I believe it's 974 persons. The application is, that was submitted to the portal through the licensing board, is from 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight. So they just applied for the most open hours. The understanding that it was a city-owned building, that we have our agreements as well. After staff review of the application, we did think it was fair to reduce those hours from noon to 12 a.m. midnight, as there is a school close by and residents. And it's a liquor primary application with no required food service, so noon to midnight was something that we thought would be acceptable. The liquor licenses previously for the rules are under a special event permit. So the Hockey Society had to apply for a special event permit one by one, like each event, and there are a limited amount per year. So it was advised that they should be under a liquor primary permanent license to guarantee that they will have a liquor service for every one of their events throughout the year. And yeah, if council has any other questions about what this license entails, you're here to answer.
And so, Councilor Devlin, I understand this was run through the Cape Committee as well, and they've looked at it. Any concerns from your perspective?
No, not anything that I was particularly made aware of. Everybody, as it was said, council kind of approved it beforehand, but we've looked over it and there's nothing new to add to the file. It's pretty much what they're doing already, except they're doing it under special event permits instead of a permanent thing.
Perfect. All right. All right. So does someone want to put the motion on the table and let's get started on this? Councilor Lucia.
I move that council endorse staff's comments based on the regulatory criteria of the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch for a new liquor primary application for the Revelstoke Grizzlies Society.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councilor Cherry. Any discussion on this motion? Councilor Orlando.
Your Worship, thank you for that. Just a general question through staff. This license, I'm assuming, is facility specific, as in this building. As we will discuss next on the agenda, the multi-sport facility is coming in the future. Would this agreement be limited to this building, and what about future buildings that may be in other locations or in this place?
So Ms. Hartling, Ms. Milligan, this is basically for this facility only, is that correct?
Yeah, through your worship, it's specifically for this facility and it's specifically for this licensee as well. So if there is another license or community group that wanted to have liquor service in the Revelstoke Forum, this wouldn't be covering them off. This would be specific for the Revelstoke Grizzlies for the youth hockey events. And then if they're wanting to change a liquor license to another building, then they would need to amend their liquor license to include another location, just like any other licensee.
Follow up, Councillor?
Your worship, yeah, just another question in regards to the curling club. They have a bar down there. How does the image sort of depicted the whole, one of the images in the report depicted the whole property. I'm just wondering how it impacts their license or their ability, or how they would go about licensing their facility.
Through your worship, I'll probably defer to Ms. Donato, but my understanding is the occupant load is for the arena portion only, and that's what this license is for. And then the curling club, I think it's shaded out there. And the curling club, I'm not too sure the parameters, if it's a special event permit, if they have a permit license, but I'm waiting for that.
Ms. Donato, do you know they have a permanent license for their bar up there?
Through your worship, no, they do not have a permanent liquor license for their bar, and this specific application is strictly for the arena facility and does not include the curling club.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Worship, just a question about other events. So in the event that another club is renting a facility for an event, they are required to get a special event license for that thing. It's not tagged on to this one. Is that correct? I see staff nodding. So.
All right, good. Okay, I'm going to call a question on number 1. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 2, please, Councillor Lucero.
I move that feedback from residents, if any, solicited by notification letters mailed to property owners within 100 meters of the subject property be provided to LCRD.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Staples. Any further discussion on this motion? Councillor Lano.
Your worship, just checking, I looked through the report, I didn't quite notice it. Were there any feedback, or is that to be solicited in the future? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, through your worship, Councillor, there was the landowner letters that were sent out. We didn't receive any formal feedback in writing. I did have a phone call with the school board, but they did not have concerns to write in. So there's no concerns that were formally written into this application.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Number 3, Councillor Lucero.
If the council has considered the location, person capacity, and hours of liquor service and recommend the approval of the new liquor primary license subject to the following. A, conditions that the hours of liquor sales be limited from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Sundays through to Saturday. B, the location of the proposed liquor license is within a city-owned managed building and previously received endorsement from council to apply for the subject license. C, no significant noise or negative impacts on the community are anticipated as a result of the proposed new liquor primary license and will support a vibrant environment that encourages community participation in junior sports.
Seconder for that motion, please, Councillor Devlin. Any further discussion on that?
Your worship, I do have a question about that.
Go ahead, Councillor.
I'm curious how the council table would feel about adding an extra condition, and I'll just pitch it over to staff here. Through the chair, I've had complaints from residents about the kegs not being covered when minor hockey's on the ice. Just wondering if that can be a condition on here as well.
So I'll go back to staff to ask that question.
Prior to trying to amend it. Can that be a condition, and is that something that, I mean, through the chair to Mr.
Kegs out of sight, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just cover
Ms. Harder?
Councillor, are you saying like having it kind of counter where you can't see it? Or,
Just-
or sort of,
So after hours or outside of hours, storage. So right now when minor hockey's on the ice, there's just a row of kegs at the top. And some parents have made complaints to me about that.
through your worship, through the license, I'm not aware, like, with recommending to the liquor board, it's something that would be parameters that the liquor board would restrict the establishment to. I'm not sure if that's something that would be recommended to the liquor board or if that's a recommendation to the city facility to communicate that.
Your worship, after that information, it's probably more of an internal policy I see than the liquor license, so I will refrain from making any amendments.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Nuttall.
Your worship, to Councillor Cherry, we can address that through the facility use agreement. So that could be one of the conditions that we list on an ongoing basis with them.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna call a question on this motion. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Moving on to number 4. Dr.
I
Lucien.
move that LIQ 2024-003 report dated June 11th, 2024 be provided to the LCRB as background.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Cherry. Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you all for this report. All right, moving on to item 11D, Multi-Sport Facility Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. Mr. Natter, do you want to state any overview on this before I ask for the motion on the table?
Your worship. So thank you. Just before you today, you have a few proposed amendments to the original terms of reference that was approved in May. After some discussion with the consultants, it was determined that we should perhaps invite two additional representatives to sit on the committee, one of them being a representative of the Junior A team, as they are a major leaseholder of the building, as well as a representative of Community Future, just having an opportunity to network with various community organizations and businesses in the community. We thought that would be a good fit for the committee. So we're proposing to increase the terms of reference to 25, the committee members to 25 from 23. And then we're also proposing to add the arena foreman in as a non-voting member, just to provide insight into the operations of the arena facility.
Okay, appreciate that. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I'm going to ask that this motion be put on the table, please. Councillor Cherry.
I move that terms of reference for the multi-sport facility advisory committee dated June 11th, 2024 be approved as amended.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Lucien. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Lemon.
Your worship, 23 is manageable, 25 is way over top, and I'm just bugging you since I added a few last time, that's all I'm gonna say. No comment.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, Mr. Nutt.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd also like to just bring up for discussion the name of the committee. I understand there's some back and forth on what would be an appropriate name for the committee. Right now, we're calling it the multi-sport facility, but perhaps council would like to consider changing the name to be more inclusive of other organizations that are participating on the committee. So we do have other options if council desires multiplex or a multi-purpose committee, if that seems more broad in terms of representation on the committee.
Comment from councillors. Councillor Stigler?
I think the name that I like the most is one that Councillor Palmer has used in the past, which was Mountainplex or something to that extent.
Multiplex?
Mountainplex.
Mountainplex?
Yeah.
Bunch of mountains.
Yeah. Sorry, we could call it the hockey arena there, Councillor Carey, but.
Okay. Any other else? Mr. Now, go ahead.
Your Worship, if council is looking for suggestions, we do suggest perhaps that multi-purpose might be more reflective of the representation on the committee. Multiplex for small communities can sometimes be a negative feeling in the community where you have this big mega building in your small community. So the consultants did suggest that multi-purpose might be more reflective of what we're trying to achieve if council has an appetite to change the name.
I think if the recommendation from the professionals to rename it the
Multi-purpose.
multi-purpose facility, I think that's a great recommendation.
Okay. And anyone want to make that motion for me? Councillor Stapheners?
Yes, sir.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Devlin, any discussion on that motion? Changing the name to multi-purpose. Councillor Lemon.
Your worship, yeah, I think it's good. I think to clarify in people's minds, and I did read the section of the report that discussed the pros and cons of the other name. So yeah, I think this is a good one. And just a question for staff. Once, if it's successful and we get to building a facility, I imagine we can, at that point, whatever it shakes out to be, decide on maybe thinking about the permanent name. But this is more intended for the development process, at least in the interim. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Any other comments on changing to multi-purpose? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Nuttall. Moving on to item 12. Illicello and Greenbelt Society has put in a request for council representation. They've specifically asked for Councillor Cherry to be appointed to their board of directors. And so I know that I've got try to have evened out all of the council representation. So Councillor Cherry, you're getting a little more in your corner than most. Are you okay with this?
Yes, Your Worship.
request?
I've been attending their meetings since their last AGM and was put in contact with them by Ingrid Braun, when she was formerly our director of ECDEP, just to ensure that there's smooth transition as they've been growing. So I'm happy to sit on this board.
Okay, so I'm going to ask council if there's anyone else that would like to sit on this board. Seeing nobody jumping up to raise their hand, would someone like to put this motion on the table for me as in your package? Councilor Lucien.
I move that Councillor Cherry be appointed to the Illicello Greenbelt Society Board of Directors as a non-voting member.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Devlin. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, Your Worship. My question is not related specifically this, but to in general our policy towards council appointments. I'm not sure what staff to address this to, but the first part is related to continuation of these appointments. So is the intention for these to continue indefinitely? So for example, from now on, council will have a representative on the board. And I guess the second part of the question is, what is the policy guiding this? I have not seen them, these appointments come forward this way in that they sort of just show up on agenda with a suggestion. And I'm wondering sort of what the overall policy is. One of the implications long-term is just time management and the load on future councils for appointments. So I'm just seeking to clarify those two things. So is this a continuing position, and what policy is guiding these positions?
Yes, board comment.
Yes, Councillor Orlando, through the chair. I do believe that this would be going forward when the next council is elected in 2026. We would reach out to the Illicello Greenbelt Society to ensure that they would like continued representation. I think that if it came up to a point where capacity was an issue with council, then that would be a full council discussion, and perhaps if they were able to commit to every second meeting or something, like I think we could work something out with them. In terms of a policy, we do not have a policy that directs how this is done. In the past, it's always been usually the mayor upon the election of council members, and he has typically worked with councillors to try to streamline or allow council members to sit on committees or commissions that they have the most interest in.
Thank you, I do appreciate it. Your Worship, and just by way of comment, typically when we handle committee and commission appointments, those are handled in an in-camera meeting when we do, when we select people just for various reasons. A general concern, would be the process that we're currently managing them through. I would have a preference that we be policy directed. I don't want to saddle staff with that right now. We have other priorities than worrying about something like this. But I think doing it in the current process, where it comes forth with a recommendation for one thing to happen without any prior discussion about that, or in terms of discussion about workloads, future commitments, ongoing commitments for these things. We've had a couple of them now. I think would be something that would benefit in the future from policy. So I'm happy to support this one now, but moving forward, if there are more similar ones in this direction, I'm less likely to support it if it's sort of it's something that is not has a discussion as the overall impact on council and what the best way to forward these decisions.
All right, thank you for that. I appreciate your comments, and I will discuss this with admin as we move forward. So any other comments with this in particular? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on to a letter we received regarding the Jordan Wilderness area. There is a letter from Donna and Yuri Knapstruck, just making sure that we're aware that they would like to make sure that we keep this area of the community in a wilderness form and protect it. And so some of that sort of stuff, we're always looking at how we keep our local areas close to the community wilderness in that natural environment. And so we'll be working with others as we move forward, and just how we keep that. Part of that will be some of that property maybe within the city limits, and most of it's in CSRD and or Crown land. So we'll have to bear witness to that as we move forward. Any other comments on that letter from councilors? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to communications, Public Infrastructure Committee minutes. Does anyone want to weigh in on that? Councillor Orlando, do you have a question?
Your Worship, I'm not on the committee. I did it. I believe this is the most recent one that I did attend, but I would, if any committee members don't want to discuss it, I just want to point out one great work staff is doing. But
great, appreciate it. All right. Seeing nothing else, I'm going to move.
Yeah, Councillor Palmer's the chair is not here today. I just wanted to just do a quick update. It was mentioned a little bit at the last meeting, looking at the 4th Street traffic calming project. We had some great community representatives here with members of who are organizers with Bike to Work Week, looking at options for how we're going to manage both our bike lane project and the traffic calming projects. Project after it coming to a couple of infrastructure meetings, some decisions were made at the meeting. Now the next step is for staff to drop some plans and bring it forth, hopefully if all goes well and budget works out for implementation next year. And I just want to thank staff for their work doing this, and also want to mention that I think it's a great project. It's long overdue. I know it's getting busier and busier, and we're hearing more and more often about traffic concerns and safety concerns, as well as wanting to get on our bikes and finish that last mile. So it was great to see, and I just want to thank the staff and committee members for working on it.
Great. Appreciate the comments. Moving on to Finance Committee minutes, just basically grant and aid applications and the tax appeals were discussed, and we talked about draft budget timeline. Other than that, nothing further to report on that. Any other comments from council regarding the Finance Committee? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to questions from the press. Ms. Delasal, do we have any questions from the press?
There are no questions from the press, Your Worship.
All right, I'm going to ask to go in camera pursuant to section 90.1A and 90.2B of the Community Charter. Someone want to make that motion for me? Councillor Devlin, seconded by Councillor Lucio. All in favor? Motion's carried. We'll take a few-minute break and come back in camera. Thank you.